Good evening, and welcome back to Sleepy Historian. If this kind of calm, unhurried storytelling helps you rest, feel free to like the video or subscribe, but only if it truly brings you peace. And if you feel comfortable, let me know in the comments where you're listening from tonight and what time it is. There's something quietly comforting about knowing that somewhere else in the darkness, others are drifting off to the same old stories. Tonight's journey is a cold one. As you settle in, dim the lights, slow your breathing, and allow your thoughts to loosen their grip. What you're about to hear is not meant to excite or alarm you. It's simply a quiet exploration of a world where comfort was rare and survival was never guaranteed. Because the truth is, you wouldn't survive a medieval winter night, not as we are now, without central heating, without insulated walls, without electric light, thick blankets, or steady fuel. In the Middle Ages, winter was not a season, it was an endurance test, and night was its most dangerous hour. Imagine the sun sinking early behind bare trees and frozen fields. The warmth of daylight fades quickly, and the cold arrives like a slow, patient force. Fires are stoked carefully because fuel is precious. Doors are sealed as best they can be, though drafts still find their way inside. Outside, the wind moves freely through empty roads and narrow alleys, carrying snow, frost, and silence with it. For medieval people, nightfall in winter brought more than darkness. It brought uncertainty. Would the fire last until morning? Would the roof hold under the weight of snow? Would everyone wake up again? This is boring history for sleep. The kind of history that doesn't rush, doesn't shout, and doesn't demand your attention. It's the slow rhythm of past lives, told softly, so your mind can wander while your body rests. A calm bedtime history documentary, a gentle history sleep story, meant to ease you towards sleep, not pull you away from it. Tonight, we'll walk quietly through a single medieval winter night. We'll begin as the cold settles into homes that were never meant to keep it out. We'll listen to the sounds of wind slipping through wooden walls and feel the stillness of long hours with no light to break them. We'll consider what cold did to the human body before people understood it, and why sleep itself could become dangerous. Along the way, we'll pass through villages, castles, roads, and watchposts. We'll think about those who were sheltered and those who were not, about families huddled together for warmth, and travelers who never reached the next door. There will be no graphic detail here. No sudden sounds, no urgency, just a steady voice, moving slowly through the dark, describing a world that endured winter one night at a time. And as you listen, you may begin to notice the warmth around you now, the quiet safety of where you rest, the simple miracle of comfort that once didn't exist. So, settle in. Let the cold remain safely in the past. Let the night unfold at its own pace. And when you're ready, we'll step gently into a medieval winter evening and see why, without knowing it, survival was already slipping away. As the last light of the winter sun fades, the medieval world grows quiet in a way that feels unfamiliar to us now. Dusk does not linger long during the cold months. Daylight slips away early, leaving behind a pale sky and a chill that settles quickly into the earth, the air, and the body itself. In a small medieval village, the end of day is not marked by clocks or glowing screens, but by instinct. People feel the cold deepen. Shadows stretch across frozen ground. The work of daylight slows, then stops entirely. What remains must be faced indoors, in darkness, with whatever warmth can be preserved. The cold does not arrive suddenly. It moves gradually, patiently, as though it has all the time in the world. At first, it nips at fingers and cheeks. Then it seeps inward, stiffening joints, slowing movement, dulling sensation. Breath becomes visible. Speech grows shorter. People begin to conserve energy without realizing it. Homes across the village prepare for night. Doors are pulled shut, though they rarely fit perfectly. Wooden beams have warped over years of weather, leaving thin gaps where wind slips through unnoticed. Shutters are closed over narrow windows, cutting off the last traces of light. Inside, fires are coaxed into steady embers. No one wants flames too large. Fuel is precious, but no one wants them too small either. Fire is life tonight. The hearth becomes the center of everything. Meals are finished close to it. Tools are placed nearby. Clothing is dried, mended, layered. The warmth it offers is uneven, fading quickly just a few steps away. Beyond its reach, the cold waits patiently. Outside, the village changes character entirely. Paths that were busy during the day now lie empty and indistinct beneath snow and frost. Sounds carry farther in winter air, yet fewer sounds exist to carry. A distant dog barks once, then falls silent. Wind moves through bare branches with a low, steady whisper. Somewhere beyond the fields, an owl calls into the darkness. There are no streetlights to soften night, no windows glowing warmly from within. Once doors are closed and fires dimmed, the village becomes a cluster of small, fragile shelters surrounded by endless cold. For medieval people, nightfall in winter is not merely inconvenient. It is dangerous. Every hour ahead must be endured. Fires must be maintained. Bodies must stay warm enough to keep moving, breathing, living. Sleep, though necessary, is approached carefully. Too much stillness can invite the cold in deeper. Families gather close as darkness settles fully. Children are drawn nearer to the fire. The elderly move more slowly, their movements deliberate and measured. Everyone understands, even without speaking aloud, that winter nights take their toll quietly. There is no sense of heroism here, no dramatic struggle, only the steady, unremarkable work of staying alive. As the sky darkens completely, the cold presses closer to every wall. Inside these homes, people listen to the fire, to the wind, to one another's breathing. They know the night is long. They know the warmth will fade. And they know that morning, when it comes, is never guaranteed. This is only the beginning of the night. The cold has just begun its work. The homes of the medieval world were never truly meant to keep winter out. They were shelters first, comfort second, if comfort was considered at all. Built quickly, repaired endlessly, and shaped by necessity rather than design. These structures stood against the cold more by endurance than resistance. Most village houses were made from what the land provided. Timber frames filled with wattle and daub, packed earth floors, thatched roofs weighed down with frost and snow. The materials offered some protection from wind and rain, but warmth escaped almost as quickly as it was created. As night deepens, the weaknesses of these homes reveal themselves. Cold air creeps in through gaps in walls and floors. It slips beneath doors and through cracks and shutters. Even thick wooden beams, swollen and shrunken by years of weather, cannot seal themselves completely. The house breathes in the cold, slowly and relentlessly. Inside, the fire does what it can. Hearths are open and inefficient, drawing as much warmth upward as they release into the room. Smoke hangs low when the air is still, stinging eyes and throats. When the wind shifts, it can push smoke back down into the living space, forcing people to choose between warmth and breath. Fuel is carefully measured. Firewood does not appear by chance. It has been gathered, split, dried, and carried, often over long distances. Every log placed on the fire is a decision. Burn too much, and there may be nothing left before dawn. Burn too little, and the cold may settle too deeply into the body to shake free. The warmth reaches only so far. Those closest to the hearth feel its gentle relief. A few steps away, the air turns sharp again. Corners of a room remain cold and shadowed. Places where frost may even form on the inside of walls during the harshest nights. People adapt without complaint. Beds are placed as near to the fire as possible. Straw mattresses are thickened, though straw offers little protection against the cold rising from the ground. Woolen blankets are layered, patched, and reused year after year. Cloaks worn during the day become coverings at night. Animals are sometimes brought inside, not out of kindness, but necessity. Their body heat adds to the warmth of the room. Their presence, though noisy and uncomfortable, can mean the difference between enduring the night and suffering through it. Above all, people remain still. Movement wastes heat. Sitting close together, sharing warmth, conserving energy. These are instinctive responses to cold long before science explains them. Conversation fades as the night progresses. Words grow fewer. Breathing becomes slower and more deliberate. The house settles into silence, broken only by the crackle of the fire and the sound of wind pressing against the walls. For all their effort, these homes cannot defeat winter. They can only delay it. The cold lingers just beyond the firelight, patient and persistent. It presses inward hour by hour, reminding those inside that shelter is never absolute. That survival, even indoors, is never fully secure. As the fire burns lower and shadows stretch longer across the walls, the true test of the night approaches. And for many, the most dangerous hours are still ahead. The first hours of darkness pass slowly in the medieval winter. Time feels different once the sun is gone. Without candles to spare or tasks that can be safely done by firelight, the night stretches outward, wide and unbroken. Inside the house, the fire has already begun to change. Its flames are lower now, quieter. What was once lively warmth becomes a careful glow, preserved rather than encouraged. Each piece of wood added is placed deliberately, with thought for the hours ahead. People settle into their places. Some sit close to the hearth, knees drawn in, cloaks wrapped tightly around their shoulders. Others lie down early, not because they are tired, but because rest conserves heat. Stillness becomes a form of protection. Movement is reduced to what is necessary. The air grows heavier as the temperature drops. Breath fogs, faintly even indoors. Fingers stiffen, toes lose sensation. The cold works subtly, patiently, dulling the body rather than shocking it. Sleep is approached cautiously. In winter, sleep is both relief and risk. The body longs for it, yet surrendering too fully can be dangerous. People have learned this without explanation, through experience passed quietly from one generation to the next. Those who sleep too deeply may not wake at all. Beds are shared, not out of affection, but survival. Children are placed between adults. The sick and elderly are kept nearest to the fire. Blankets are arranged to trap what warmth they can, though much of it escapes upward into the dark rafters. Outside, the night presses closer. Wind finds new paths through the village, slipping between buildings and over frozen fields. Snow creaks under its own weight. Somewhere nearby, wood contracts sharply in the cold, producing a sudden crack that echoes briefly before silence returns. Every unfamiliar sound draws attention. In the darkness, imagination fills the gaps left by sight. People listen for signs of trouble. An animal near the door, a roof shifting under snow, footsteps where none should be. Winter nights have a way of magnifying fear without ever revealing its source. Hours pass without markers. There are no bells to mark time, no clocks glowing faintly in the dark. Night is measured by the fire's slow decline, by the body's growing discomfort, by the aching desire for morning. Inside the house, breathing becomes the loudest sound. Slow, steady, shared. Each breath a quiet reassurance that life continues moment by moment. For some, wakefulness lingers. Eyes remain open, fixed on the fire's fading embers. Thoughts drift, then return. The cold makes concentration difficult, yet sleep resists easy arrival. This is the moment when winter exerts its quiet power, not through storms or spectacle, but through endurance. Through hours of cold that wear the body down gently, persistently. Through darkness that asks nothing, yet takes much. The night is still young. Beyond these walls, the cold continues its patient work. And as the first stretch of darkness gives way to deeper hours, survival becomes less certain. Not because of sudden danger, but because of time itself. As the medieval winter night deepens, the cold no longer remains something outside the walls. It begins its quiet work within the body itself. There is no sudden change, no sharp moment of realization. The body simply starts to respond, slowly and instinctively, to a world that is drawing warmth away. At first, the changes seem small. Fingers lose their flexibility. Tasks that once felt simple require more effort. Hands move stiffly, reluctant to obey. Toes grow numb inside worn leather shoes or thin wrappings of cloth. The cold dulls sensation before it causes pain, making it easy to underestimate its reach. Medieval people did not understand the body as we do now. They spoke instead of balance, of humors shifting, of warmth retreating, of the body growing heavy and slow. Yet even without modern knowledge, they knew the signs well. Cold was not just discomfort. It was a force that weakened, confused, and exhausted. As warmth drains away, muscles tighten. Movement becomes deliberate. Energy fades more quickly than expected. The body conserves what it can, prioritizing the heart and lungs while allowing the edges to grow quiet and unresponsive. Breathing changes too. In cold air, breaths become shallow and measured. Each inhale feels sharper, each exhale more visible. The body works harder simply to maintain itself, even while resting. Fatigue arrives not from labor, but from endurance. Thoughts begin to slow. The cold affects the mind as gently as it affects the body. Concentration drifts. Memory feels less reliable. People struggle to follow long conversations or hold on to complex thoughts. Silence becomes easier than speech, not just because words freeze on the tongue, but because thinking itself grows heavy. This is one of winter's most subtle dangers. When the body grows cold, judgment follows. Decisions become slower. Awareness dulls. A person may fail to notice just how much warmth they have lost until it is already difficult to recover. In medieval winter nights, this mattered greatly. There were no alarms to warn of danger, no knowledge of temperature thresholds, no clear line between discomfort and threat. People learned through experience and through loss. That cold worked quietly, disguising its harm beneath fatigue and calm. Sleepiness begins to creep in, unwelcome yet persistent. The body, drained of energy, seeks rest. Muscles relax. Eyes grow heavy. The fire's glow becomes hypnotic. It feels natural, even comforting, to close one's eyes and stop resisting. But this is where the cold becomes most dangerous. In the medieval world, it was understood, though rarely explained, that surrendering too fully to sleep could be fatal. The body, already struggling to generate warmth, slows further. Breathing deepens. Movement ceases. Heat production drops. Those who slipped into deep sleep in extreme cold sometimes never stirred again. There is no panic in this realization, only quiet caution. People learn to fight sleep gently. They shift positions. They stir the fire. They press closer to one another. Anything to remind the body to stay awake just a little longer, to keep warmth moving, to resist the stillness that winter encourages. The cold does not rush. It waits. It allows the body to grow tired, to grow calm, to grow still. And in that stillness, it takes what little warmth remains. As the night continues, the struggle is no longer against the cold air itself, but against the body's own desire to rest, against the quiet temptation to stop noticing. And for many, this internal battle, unseen, unfelt until too late, proved far more dangerous than snow or wind ever could. As the medieval winter night stretches onward, sleep becomes both refuge and threat. The body aches for it. The mind longs to drift away from discomfort. Yet beneath this natural desire lies a danger quietly understood by those who lived through countless cold seasons. In winter, sleep is never taken lightly. People prepare for it carefully, arranging their bodies in ways meant to preserve warmth. Beds are shared without hesitation. Children are placed between adults, their smaller bodies shielded from the cold by layers of flesh and cloth. The elderly are drawn closer to the hearth, their breathing watched subtly, without alarm. Still, fear remains. The danger of sleep in the cold is not dramatic. There is no sudden collapse, no struggle. It arrives quietly, disguised as rest. Muscles relax. Movement slows. Breathing deepens. The body, already weakened by hours of cold, produces less heat with every passing moment. Medieval people did not have words like hypothermia, but they understood the outcome. They spoke of warmth leaving the body, of blood growing sluggish, of the fire inside a person dimming until it could not be relit. To fall asleep too deeply was to risk never waking. For this reason, winter sleep is often broken. People stir themselves deliberately. Someone shifts position. Another reaches out to touch a nearby shoulder, confirming warmth and presence. The fire is checked again and again, even when only embers remain. Animals inside the home add both comfort and danger. Their bodies provide warmth, but their stillness can encourage deeper sleep. The slow rhythm of their breathing, the quiet heaviness of shared rest, makes surrender tempting. Outside, the cold listens patiently. Wind presses against walls. Snow settles heavier on roofs. The world beyond the house is completely still, as though holding its breath. Inside, time seems suspended. Hours blur together in half sleep, half wakefulness. Dreams come easily in the cold. They are slow and indistinct, shaped by fatigue rather than imagination. Some drift into warmth that does not exist. Others dream of daylight returning. The mind, deprived of comfort, begins to create it on its own. This is another danger. Those who slip too fully into sleep may fail to notice when their bodies grow dangerously cold. Numbness spreads quietly. Shivering fades. The warning signs soften rather than intensify. The cold does not shout, it whispers. Medieval households respond with ritual rather than panic. A prayer murmured softly. A charm hung near the hearth. A familiar phrase spoken into the dark. These acts serve not only belief, but awareness. They keep the mind engaged, anchored to the present moment, resisting the pull of unconsciousness. Sleep, when it comes, is light and fractured. It arrives in short intervals, broken by movement and sound. A log shifted in the fire. A cough. A whispered name. Each interruption is a small act of survival. For many, this is the longest part of the night. The hours before dawn are the coldest. The fire is weakest. The body is most exhausted. This is when vigilance matters most, and when it is hardest to maintain. And yet, despite every effort, some nights claim more than they should. People awaken to silence where breathing once was, to cold hands that no longer warm, to the quiet understanding that winter has taken another life without struggle or sound. There is no ceremony for this in the night, no time for grief. Survival must continue for those who remain. And so, even in loss, the fire is tended, the cold is endured, and the living wait for morning, knowing that sleep, the thing they crave most, remains the greatest risk of all. In a medieval winter night, cold does not affect everyone equally. It moves through households unevenly, settling first where the body is least able to resist. Children, the elderly, and the already weakened feel its presence sooner and more deeply than others. Children's bodies are small, their warmth easily lost. Their limbs cool quickly, their breathing light and shallow. Even when wrapped carefully in place between adults, they depend entirely on others to notice when cold begins to take hold. A child does not always wake when warmth fades. Sleep comes easily, and with it, vulnerability. Families remain alert for this reason. Mothers and fathers touch foreheads, feel hands, adjust coverings. They wake children gently, not to frighten them, but to ensure movement continues. A stir or a sigh, a whispered word, small signs that life remains active beneath the blankets. The elderly face a different struggle. Years of labor have worn their bodies thin. Joints ache more sharply in the cold. Movement is painful, and stillness comes too easily. Their ability to generate warmth is diminished, and their awareness may be dulled by fatigue or illness. In winter nights, they're watched quietly, respectfully, without drawing attention to the risk. A place nearest a fire is offered. Extra coverings are arranged. Their breathing becomes a source of constant reassurance or quiet concern. Those already ill suffer most of all. Coughs deepen in the cold air. Fevers behave unpredictably. Weakness spreads faster when warmth is scarce. For the sick, winter nights can feel endless, each hour heavier than the last. There are few remedies available. No medicines to restore warmth. No reliable treatments to strengthen the body against cold. Care consists of presence, shared heat, steady watchfulness, small acts repeated patiently. In some homes, difficult choices are made. Limited space near the hearth forces families to decide who receives the greatest protection. Children are prioritized. The very old are drawn close. Others accept colder positions without protest, understanding that survival depends on these unspoken agreements. The cold does not respect intention. Despite care and vigilance, winter takes its toll. Children sometimes fail to stir. Elders grow still in the night. The sick weaken beyond recovery. Loss arrives quietly, without spectacle, without warning. Morning reveals what night has taken. Bodies are found colder than the room itself. Breathing has ceased without struggle. The fire has burned low, and with it, the fragile warmth that sustained life through the night. There is no time for immediate grief. Survival continues. Fires must be rebuilt, animals tended. The living must endure the day ahead. Morning waits for warmth, for daylight, for a moment when the cold loosens its grip. Winter nights teach harsh lessons. They reveal how fragile life becomes when warmth is scarce. How survival depends not on strength alone, but on attention, cooperation, and quiet care. And how easily the cold claims those least able to resist. As the night wears on, the balance grows more precarious. Each hour tests the household again, asking who will remain warm enough to greet the morning and who will not. Not everyone facing a medieval winter night does so from behind a door. Beyond the shelter of villages and hearths, there are travelers, people who find themselves exposed to the cold with no walls to slow it, no fire to soften its edge. Travel in winter is rarely planned for comfort. Merchants, messengers, pilgrims, and laborers move when they must, not when conditions are kind. Roads are rough even in good weather. In winter, they become uncertain paths buried beneath snow, ice, and fading light. As night falls, direction becomes difficult to judge. There are no signposts glowing in the dark. Familiar landmarks disappear beneath frost. Fields and forests blend together into a single pale expanse. A traveler who strays, even slightly from the road, may not realize it until the ground beneath their feet changes, or until they cannot retrace their steps at all. Cold weighs heavily on those who walk. Movement generates warmth at first, but exhaustion follows quickly. Muscles stiffen. Breathing grows labored. Every step through snow demands more effort than the last. The body burns energy rapidly, and hunger arrives sooner than expected. Clothing offers limited protection. Wool cloaks and leather boots slow the cold but cannot stop it. Snow melts against fabric, then freezes again, adding weight and stiffness. Wet garments steal heat relentlessly. Gloves, if worn at all, soon lose their ability to protect fingers from numbness. The greatest danger is delay. A traveler who pauses too long to rest may struggle to rise again. Cold settles quickly into stillness. Fatigue whispers that stopping is safe, that the body needs rest. In truth, stopping invites the cold to take hold more deeply. Inns and wayhouses are precious in winter, but they are few and far between. Many close early, unwilling to burn fuel through the night for unknown guests. A traveler arriving too late may find doors barred, windows dark, and no answer to a knock. When this happens, choices become limited. Some seek shelter where they can, under trees, beside stone walls, in shallow ditches that offer slight protection from the wind. These places provide little warmth, but they can shield against the worst gusts. Cloaks are pulled tight, bodies curl inward, sleep tempts once again. Others press onward through the dark, guided more by memory than sight. They count steps. They listen for distant sounds, dogs, bells, water moving beneath ice. Every noise becomes a possible sign of life or shelter. Winter nights are long. Hours pass slowly beneath open sky. Snow reflects what little moonlight exists, creating a dim, deceptive brightness that hides depth and distance. Cold air burns in the lungs. The world feels vast and indifferent. Not all travelers make it through. Some are found in the morning, lying where they stopped, faces calm, as though sleep simply arrived too deeply. Others vanish entirely, claimed by snowdrifts or frozen ground, until spring reveals what winter concealed. There is no alarm when this happens, no witness to mark the moment of loss. The road absorbs them quietly, as it has many before. For those who survive, winter travel leaves its mark. They arrive at shelter stiff, silent, drained. Warmth returns slowly, painfully. Sensation creeps back into fingers and toes with a dull ache. Survival is measured not in comfort, but in endurance. And as the night continues, the cold remains undefeated, patiently waiting for the next traveler to misjudge distance, darkness, or time. While travelers battle the cold through movement, others face the medieval winter night in stillness. Soldiers, guards, and watchmen remain awake by obligation, standing against the cold hour after hour, with no shelter beyond stone walls and no freedom to seek warmth when their bodies demand it. Castles and fortified towns depend on vigilance. Gates must be watched. Walls must be patrolled. Fires are allowed only in specific places, carefully controlled to prevent disaster. For those assigned to night watch, warmth is a privilege rarely granted. Armor offers little comfort in winter. Metal draws cold eagerly, pulling warmth from the body with quiet efficiency. Even when layered over wool and linen, it grows stiff and unforgiving as temperatures fall. Straps tighten, buckles freeze to the touch. Fingers lose dexterity, making even simple movements difficult. The weight of equipment becomes heavier as fatigue sets in. Standing still is the greatest challenge. Movement, however exhausting, generates warmth. Stillness allows the cold to settle deeply into muscles and joints. Guards shift their weight, stamp their feet softly, flex their hands, small motions permitted only to keep blood moving. Breath clouds the air in steady rhythm. Each exhale drifts upward into darkness, quickly swallowed by the night. The body works constantly just to remain upright. Hunger gnaws quietly, intensified by cold. Sleep presses at the edges of awareness, tempting and dangerous. Night watches are long. Time stretches thin between patrols. Hours pass marked only by the changing quality of darkness and the slow progress of stars overhead. The world beyond the walls lies silent, buried beneath frost and snow. Any sound, a scrape, a distant call, the shifting of stone, demands attention. Winter sharpens fear, not because threats increase, but because exhaustion erodes certainty. Cold dulls judgment. Shadows linger longer. The mind fills empty darkness with imagined movement. Guards strain to remain alert, knowing that a single lapse could mean punishment or worse. Yet winter itself is the most persistent enemy. Many soldiers fall ill during long winter watches. Stiff joints become injuries. Coughs deepen into something harder to recover from. Frost numbs extremities, sometimes permanently. Those who serve through many winters carry its marks in their bodies long after the cold has passed. Some nights, men collapse quietly once relieved from duty. They reach shelter barely conscious, too exhausted to speak. Warmth returns slowly, painfully. Limbs tingle and ache. Sleep arrives heavily, unavoidable at last. Others do not recover so easily. Prolonged exposure, combined with fatigue and hunger, claims lives even within the safety of walls. Morning reveals guards who never left their posts, standing frozen in place, the cold having done what no enemy could. There is little ceremony for such losses. Duty continues. Another guard takes the position. Fires are rebuilt. Winter demands endurance, not reflection. As the night deepens further, walls stand silent beneath frost, watched by figures who fight the cold not with weapons, but with patience and resolve. And for every guard who survives the watch, the cold waits calmly for the next, unchanged, unmoved, and entirely indifferent. Not everyone facing the medieval winter night has a fire to guard or a road to follow. Beyond the walls, beyond the villages, and often beyond notice, there are those with no shelter at all. The homeless, the outcast, the forgotten, people for whom winter night offers no protection, only exposure. In medieval society, poverty is common, but shelter is not guaranteed. A bad harvest, illness, loss of work, or exile can leave a person without a place to belong. In winter, this absence becomes dangerous with alarming speed. As darkness falls, these people search quietly. They look for doorways shielded from wind, for the lee side of stone walls, for abandoned sheds, or partially collapsed buildings. Churches offer some refuge, but doors are not always open, and charity depends on circumstance rather than promise. Even when shelter is found, it offers little comfort. Stone holds cold deeply. Earth pulls warmth away from the body. Straw, if available at all, compresses quickly beneath weight and provides minimal insulation. Cloaks are thin, worn, and often damp. Hunger weakens resistance further, leaving the body with little energy to fight the cold. Stillness comes quickly. Without fire or companions, movement feels pointless. The cold seeps in through clothing and skin, dulling sensation. Fingers stiffen, feet grow numb, breathing slows. Fatigue arrives early, heavy, and persuasive. Sleep beckons. For those already exhausted, resisting it becomes nearly impossible. The body longs to rest, to escape discomfort, to surrender awareness. The danger is not understood in scientific terms, but it is felt instinctively. Many know that sleep in the cold can be final, yet the effort to remain awake requires strength they no longer possess. Winter nights claim these lives quietly. There are no witnesses, no alarms, no interruption. The cold does not rush or struggle. It waits until movement stops, until awareness fades, until warmth can no longer be sustained. By morning, the village wakes. Doors open. Fires are rebuilt. The living return to their routines. Sometimes, a body is found near a wall or beneath an overhang, still and pale against the snow. Sometimes, nothing is found at all. Winter hides its work well. There is rarely ceremony for the forgotten. At most, a brief acknowledgement, a passing prayer. Life continues as it must. Survival leaves little room for reflection when resources are scarce. Yet these losses are part of winter's true cost, not measured in storms or ruined crops, but in lives that fade without record. People whose nights end quietly, without shelter, warmth, or company. Their absence goes unnoticed, but their struggle is no less real. As the medieval winter night stretches onward, the cold shows its most unforgiving face, not through violence or spectacle, but through neglect, isolation, and silence. And in this stillness, winter proves once again that survival is not evenly shared. When warmth cannot be guaranteed by walls or fire, medieval people turn to ritual. Not rituals of spectacle or ceremony, but quiet habits repeated night after night. Small acts meant to preserve heat, comfort the mind, and impose a sense of order on an unforgiving season. Winter teaches consistency. Families develop routines shaped entirely by cold. Fires are rebuilt at the same hour each evening. Meals are eaten earlier while daylight still lingers. Water is drawn and stored before freezing temperatures make the task dangerous. These habits are not superstition. They are survival, refined through generations of experience. Clothing becomes ritual. Layers are arranged carefully. Linen closest to the skin, wool above, cloaks wrapped tight and pinned close. Garments are shared, passed down, repaired endlessly. At night, people sleep wearing much of what they own, using spare clothing as bedding when blankets are scarce. Before rest, bodies are prepared. Feet are rubbed to restore feeling. Hands are warmed near embers, not flames, to avoid burns on numb skin. Damp garments are removed if possible, even when replacements are thin. Every decision is weighed between discomfort and danger. Words are spoken softly. Prayers, charms, and familiar phrases offer reassurance when warmth fails. These quiet repetitions calm fear, steady breathing, and help pass time. Whether spoken to saints, ancestors, or simply into the darkness, the act itself brings comfort. Communal warmth matters. Families sleep close together, sharing body heat beneath heavy coverings. In larger households, people gather near the hearth long after light fades, delaying the moment when fires must be banked and darkness takes over. Animals are brought inside. Chickens, goats, even small livestock share enclosed spaces during extreme cold. Their presence adds warmth and sound, reminders of life continuing through winter. The smell is tolerated without complaint. Warmth is more important than comfort. Night is faced deliberately. Candles are conserved. Lamps burn low. People move slowly, avoiding unnecessary trips outdoors. Doors are sealed with cloth. Gaps are stuffed with straw or rags. These acts repeat nightly, forming a rhythm that carries households through weeks of darkness. Ritual creates endurance, not because it guarantees safety, but because it offers structure when conditions cannot be controlled. Each repeated act affirms effort. Each small success, a fire lasting through the night, a child sleeping warmly, feels like victory. In the medieval winter, survival is not dramatic. It is built from habits, passed quietly from one generation to the next. Ritual does not defeat the cold, but it teaches people how to live alongside it, patiently, deliberately, and one night at a time. As winter nights stretch longer, belief becomes as important as fire. In a world where cold kills quietly and unpredictably, medieval people search for meaning in the darkness, shaping fear into something understandable through faith, tradition, and story. The night feels alive. Without modern light, darkness carries presence. Shadows shift with firelight. Wind presses against walls. Every unfamiliar sound invites interpretation. Winter, with its silence and isolation, amplifies this awareness, turning ordinary moments into something uncertain. Fear gathers easily. People believe that winter weakens boundaries between the living and the dead, the natural and the unseen. Long nights are thought to invite wandering spirits, restless souls, and forces that thrive in cold and quiet. These beliefs do not exist to frighten alone. They give shape to anxiety that would otherwise have no name. Stories are told softly. By hearth and candle, families repeat familiar tales, not to excite, but to reassure. These stories remind listeners that danger has been faced before and survived. Monsters are named. Spirits are given rules. Even fear becomes predictable. Faith offers structure. Prayers are said at specific hours. Saints are invoked for protection against illness and cold. Charms are hung near doors or beds, not as defiance, but as comfort. The act of belief itself steadies the mind when conditions cannot be controlled. Sleep is treated cautiously. Many believe that spirits are most active when the body rests. Beds are positioned carefully. Protective symbols are placed nearby. Children are instructed not to wander at night. These practices reinforce safety through routine and awareness. Winter reshapes time. Without daylight, nights feel endless. Bells mark hours faintly in the distance. People measure time by candle length, by the fire's behavior, by the rhythm of breathing beside them. This slow awareness deepens introspection. Fear is shared, and in being shared, it becomes lighter. Spoken aloud, acknowledged, woven into belief systems, fear loses some of its power. Winter nights become something endured together rather than faced alone. In this way, belief becomes survival, not because it changes the cold, but because it changes how people live within it. Faith, superstition, and story give meaning to hardship, turning endless nights into passages rather than punishments. As winter presses on, belief fills the spaces that warmth cannot reach, quietly, patiently, and without certainty. As the night deepens toward its final hours, survival is no longer assumed. In medieval winter, morning is hoped for, not promised. The cold works slowly. It does not announce itself with violence. It settles quietly into fingers, toes, lungs, and joints. Breathing becomes shallow. Movement feels heavy. The body conserves what little warmth remains, slipping closer to stillness without resistance. Sleep becomes dangerous, not because rest is wrong, but because it can become final. People understand this instinctively. They fear the moment when exhaustion overcomes awareness, when the fire dies low, when the body stops shivering. Some never wake. In winter records, deaths are often described without drama. A servant found still beside the hearth. An elderly villager discovered beneath blankets that no longer hold heat. A traveler frozen in a roadside shelter, posture unchanged from sleep. Morning reveals truth. At first light, doors are opened carefully. Smoke rises or does not. Neighbors check on one another. Silence answers where voices once did. Loss is met without surprise, only quiet acceptance. Winter reshapes grief. There is little time for mourning rituals. Life continues because it must. Fires are rebuilt. Bread is baked. Animals are fed. Survival demands movement, even when hearts are heavy. Memory becomes warning. Those who die in winter are remembered not only as loved ones, but as reminders. Stories are passed on. Tend the fire longer, share blankets, wake each other through the night. Knowledge becomes inheritance. And yet, hope remains. Morning, when it comes, feels earned. Pale light creeps across frozen ground. Frost melts slowly from window edges. Breath fogs the air, visible proof of life continuing. People rise stiff and aching, but alive. Winter does not defeat everyone. It teaches patience, endurance, and respect. It reminds people of fragility and of the quiet strength required to endure what cannot be changed. For medieval people, each winter morning is a small victory, a reminder that survival is not heroic, but persistent. And now, as this long winter night finally loosens its grip, you may notice how different your own surroundings feel. The walls around you are stronger. The air is warmer. The darkness no longer threatens survival. It simply invites rest. For medieval people, winter nights were endured, not escaped. Each evening carried uncertainty. Each morning, when it arrived, felt quietly earned. Survival was never dramatic. It was repetitive, careful, and deeply human. They warmed themselves with what little they had. They trusted habits passed down through generations. They listened to the wind, tended the fire, and waited for light. Tonight, you do not need to wait. You are safe where you are. The cold remains only a story. The danger has passed into memory. If this kind of slow, gentle storytelling helps you rest, you may like the video, subscribe, or simply let it play on as you drift away. And if you're still awake, you're welcome to leave a comment, where you're listening from, or what time the night has reached for you. It's quietly comforting to know others are resting alongside you. For now, let your breathing soften. Let the night grow still. Let history fade gently into sleep. Good night.